awesome plane. Gear's coming down. Let's do a couple landings out of it. Power's coming into about a third to a quarter. It touches down, really, man, it is so light, this airplane. Wow, that's crazy. Gear's coming back up. Let's come by hot again. Wow, yeah, I'll get into this when it's less windy. Holy smokes, this thing is awesome. See if we get another touch and go out of it here. Awesome. I tell you what, it's got a wide range of performance though, and it doesn't do anything too horrible to you so far in the high alpha range here. Here we go. You just got to stay on it and power through. Real nice. I added a little too much there. There we go. Not bad, not bad. Yeah, I think we'll call it quits on that. Hey guys, Rich here. Welcome back to the RCINFORMER YouTube channel. And today I have a pretty thorough unbox, assembly, and setup guide for E-flite's 70mm F-16 Fighting Falcon in the Thunderbird scheme. Really nice airplane. It has been dubbed, as the box says, the air show hero, because this is a really awesome airplane for real high performance flight, Thunderbird style, flying inverted, doing point rolls, high alpha turns, and it slows right down into high alpha flight. We're going to be giving you guys those demos. Check for them on the RCINFORMER YouTube channel. We'll be doing flights off of pavement, flights off of grass, and additionally those videos are going to, as I add them, we're going to put them here on this video in the upper right hand corner of the screen, the white information card you'll see right there now. If you click on that right now, even as we're talking, it will drop down a menu without stopping the video, and it'll show you the other related videos on this airplane as I add them, and you'll be able to just access them here. It's just simple for you guys. I'm impressed with this plane, especially being the size that it is. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's just about the right size, and it all runs on 6 cells of power. So I'll be demoing this on the Smart Packs with the 3230C, which I have in there, and of course this 4050C as well. Now, assembling this is pretty easy, but there is some gluing. You do have to glue the vertical stabilizer, the horizontal stabilizer, the ventral fins, but the rest just screws together. 4 wing screws, and you're done assembling. Missiles go on real simple. They snap on and off. Even the nose cone, that's magnetic. You can see that comes off real easy. So it's a very simple assembly to get this thing together. So anyway, folks, if you check also below in the description here, we are going to have, because this is a pretty long video, I will have a chapter list for you guys with hyperlinks so you guys can get to the parts of this video you want to get through quickly. I think this video is going to be about an hour long or so, and watching it front to back, you guys are going to get a lot of information on this airplane, but I hyperlink them in the description below the video so you guys can click on where the unboxing starts, where the battery compartment section is, where assembling certain components, and it'll all be listed there so you guys can go forward or back quickly and just jump ahead or go behind to whatever parts that you guys want to see. Now there's 2 things I'm going to add in this video, or two things that I did differently to the airplane aside from building it that should help you guys out, and they're optional things. One is I did add nose wheel steering trim to the airplane via a knob, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. That's no cost or no extra to you guys, because there's a free channel in the receiver, and I'm going to show you how to set that up on the mixing, so you know, as you're going down the runway you can just fine trim it with your knob here. Also, for adjusting your CG range forward and back in the airplane, I made an upgrade to the battery compartment that you don't have to do. You can leave it stock, but I made it with a 3rd strap so the batteries can be shifted forward and back, so you can choose high-speed flying or get into the high alpha based on your CG and shifting that battery forward and back. Now again, guys, that's going to be an option, but I put that in the video for those of you who like to make you know, little changes or improvements to the airplane to make it just a little bit better. Stock, this airplane goes together beautifully, so you don't need to do anything to it, but I think that's why you guys come to RC Informer, because I have things like that. I do special things to the airplane that give you guys an option to do something a little bit different to it and improve it just a little bit. So anyway, guys, we do appreciate you guys checking out our links below. If you guys do choose to get one of these airplanes through our link, put it in your cart and purchase one. That supports our channel. We really do appreciate that, folks. And as well, we did start an Instagram page account and Twitter. So below in the description also, I'm going to add those so you guys follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well. And hopefully we'll communicate and talk more there as we go about. So anyway, guys, please like and subscribe to our channel. Please comment. Click that notification bell to get new videos like this as they're launched. And that's really it, folks. Without further delay, let's go ahead and get on to the full unbox, assembly, and setup of this fantastic model. To start off the review, folks, we're just going to take a quick look at the outside of the box, go into some of the specs and so forth. You can see here we are officially licensed by Lockheed Martin, and Horizon has dubbed this the High Performance Air Show Hero. They always have some of the nicest artwork on the side of their boxes, and you can see here they got really nice photographs. We're going to be doing a lot of flying with this thing, and I'm going to be giving you guys some great videos of this. You can see here we'll be doing a lot of that, a lot of inverted flying with this thing. It is just one nice model, just shows really well the color of the Thunderbirds. Really is quite a standout. And then let's really quick here, folks, just for review purposes, let's see what we're talking about here. There's a plug and play version and a bind and fly. You can see I'm going to be showing you here the bind and fly basic version, part number EFL7850. Again, those links will be below in the description of the video for you guys to check that out. This shows you everything that's installed and required for the bind and fly version. You can see here I wrote in here it's an 1850 kV in-runner motor. That is pre-installed here. It's a 70 millimeter fan with 12 blades. So this is going to be screaming with an in-runner in it. 70 amp ESC is installed. Servos, there's 6 digital metal gear servos installed. Receiver, this is the AR636 with AS3X and SAFE technologies, and we'll be talking about that here and in the flight demo. That's installed. And then what's required for this thing? Got to have a transmitter, 6 to 7 channels, DSM2 or X compatible. I'll be using my DX9. And of course a battery, 3200 to 4000, 6 cell, 30C or greater required with ESC or EC5 connectors. You can never get that right. Or the IC5 connectors, as you can see right here. And these are the 2 batteries I'll be using in this for the demos, the 3200 30C and the 4000 50C. And you can see right here the weights on those for anybody that wants to know, 484 and 565 on the grams, and I'll be showing you these two in the flight demos on this thing. And one more thing I just want to show on the side of the box, just to talk a little bit about the stabilizer system. I've never really been a fan of stabilizers. However, I've been using this AS3X, and it is pretty darn awesome with all these Horizon planes, and it's built into the receiver already, so it gives you stabilization. So when you're using AS3X, it's a stabilizer. It pitches and rolls. It controls the airplane, or gives you stabilization to the airplane, so it really corrects for wind. It basically takes the wind out of it, makes the plane easier to fly. And then in safe mode, we can assign a switch to safe mode, and that gives you automatic self-leveling. So it limits your bank and limits your pitch on your airplane, so it's easier to fly. And so in a beginner mode, you can use that as a beginner type mode. Or if you lose sight of the aircraft for some reason, you can flip that switch, you can activate it, and the plane will right itself. And that's really kind of a nice little thing to have. So anyway, one more thing here on the side of the box. There are a little bit more on the specs here. You can see the length of the airplane. It's a 1200, almost 1300 millimeter length, 49 inches long, or 813 on the wingspan, and 32 inches on the wingspan there as well. And then of course, just sort of as another review here, it has that optional safe protection envelope that we can select. Scale replica air show icon. It does have retractable gear, folks. It has with shock absorbing struts, and we'll get into that. Digital metal gear servos installed. Again, AS3X technology. What is this? SPEKTRUM 6-channel is in there in the bind and fly. Of course, we just talked about a 12-blade fan for awesome performance, and an in-runner motor with 70 amp ESC, folks. So this thing is going to haul the mail. You can see how everything is nicely packaged. I went ahead and just took a hobby knife and cut the lower portion of this, and everything comes out real nicely, starting with the wings here. Really nice hinges and everything all the way around. These are all painted up. ready to go. We'll put those on the box there. We've got our ventral fins all bagged here. We've got our horizontal stabilizers right down here in the corner. Those are all ready to be glued on. There is a little bit of gluing to do with this airplane. Got your vertical stabilizer and rudder. Again, that's ready to be connected. Has the Air Force Thunderbirds decal on there already. We've got our decal or sticker package. Our instructions are right here. We've got two missiles here. One of these I think I can get out. The other one I got to flip the box over. And the nose cone is right in here. It's all ready to go. Pitot tube attached, and that thing is rubbery, so I'll show you that in a little closer detail. We'll get these little separators off. They got a little foam protectant on here, and then you got to take this up out of the back because it's actually kind of nosed into the front of the box here. And you can kind of see how it sticks down in here. So don't pull it straight up. You got to kind of get the back up first, and then get this this whole thing out of here. And we'll place this down right up front. And then with that, we can flip the box upside down. Actually, there is one additional bag here. You can see there's only a few screws. I believe those are probably just the wing screws. There's 4 of them in the bind plug and your tail push rods for your elevators. And then we'll flip this kind of upside down. We'll get our last missile out of there. And then on the bottom of the box, don't throw your box out. You got your main spar here for your wing. So that's right under there. So anyway, let's lay out all these parts and we'll take a closer look at everything in detail. Now that we got all the parts in the box laid out nicely, we can see it's a very simple airplane to put together. There is some gluing to do, however. You do have to glue your horizontal fins on, you do have to glue your vertical on, and you do have to glue your ventral fins on, but that's pretty easy to do. Foam safe CA, or my preference always is foam tack. I think it's just the best glue to use for foam because it stays clear, it stays flexible, and it really bonds the thing together. I think foam safe CA is okay to use. It just seems to be a little brittle for using on foam. So, but anyway, you can see the fuselage right here, all laid out. Fan, motor, ESC already installed. Landing gear is in this thing already. Everything's wired and everything's ready to be plugged in. You've got your 2 main wing panels right here. Aileron servos are already in there. Linkages are on them and they're ready to go. You've got your vertical stabilizer and rudder, servos on, linkage on, and it's ready to go. Your horizontal stabilizers and elevators, those are ready to be glued on. You have your 2 rods right there in the bag. Once you glue them on, you connect those and you're good to go. Your wing spars here, your missiles and missile rails that just snap on. That might be my only complaint about the airplane, that it has missiles on it, because I mean it's a Thunderbirds plane, so it really shouldn't have those. But those just snap right on. You got your 2 ventral fins. Again, foam tack those on. Nose cone goes on magnetically, which is really nice. And then you've got your stickers. So you can choose which color or which position you want to be. If you want to be a lead, right wing, left wing, slot, solo or opposing solo, or the other planes, 7, 8 in the group, which I think are kind of PR airplanes. So you can kind of choose what you want. Your instruction manuals there, and that's really it, folks. It's pretty darn sweet how nice this is. Just to kind of kick this off, I'm going to show you the nose cone here really quick. This is really nice. You can see it has a rubber end of it, so you know you have less chance. This is going to help me out. Less chance of breaking this darn thing off, because I'm always snagging you know, these pitot tubes on stuff, and the fact they made it out of rubber, that might stop me from snagging the thing. You can see right here it's all magnetic, so to get your nose cone on, you literally just put it on the correct direction. Actually, I still have it on the wrong way. You just literally just put that baby on, and that's it. It's magnetic, folks. It just pulls right off and goes right on. Just that simple. So, and then we're taking a look at the rest of the fuselage here. Let me kind of stand this thing up. Let me put the nose cone down. It's not too big. It's easy enough to handle, but it can be a little cumbersome the way that it is. Someone's sending me a message. So anyway, really nice all the way around. Again, your magnet up front. You can see here going along the side your leading edge extensions, which is really one of the nicest features I like on these airplanes, is you notice they have plastic along this leading edge extension right there, so you can't ding that up. Same thing with the inlet lip. You can see the inlet lip is all plastic, so you can't ding that up. Anytime there's thin parts like that made out of foam, you're always dinging them, but they're making them plastic now and doing a fantastic job. Here's the gun port. That's another plastic part. and just awesome fit and finish all the way around. Really like it. Nice decal, nice sticker application here. You can see the panel lines throughout this thing. I'll see if I can get some close-ups of all of those. Just really nice tail cone detail as well. And let's look at the underside here. They've got lots of cooling coming in the front. We'll look at that in the canopy when we get to that. And when you look down in there, you can see where the landing gear goes, and you got plenty of, you got some obstructed space there for air getting in to the engine, but there's plenty of cheater holes back here to make up for that. You can see your nose gear in here, nice aluminum retract. Look in there, look how beautiful that is, how nice and set up that is. Nice thick strut suspension all the way around. And then right down here is a little hole. This is a la FMS. This is one of their things they've been doing for a long time. There's a little hole here to put an Allen wrench down in there to adjust your steering linkage for your nose wheel steering. So really sharp that Horizon has adopted that. E-flite's putting those in there. That's really nice. Your main gear, really robust, really tough all the way around. No doors on this thing, no landing gear doors, but this is meant to be an aerobatic kind of air show plane. Gear doors would just make it expensive, and due to the size of it, you just don't need them. When the thing's zooming by at 100 miles an hour, whatever it does, you're probably not going to see those anyway. So one wing connection for your aileron. You can see each of your wings has an aileron connection right there. You got nice plastic fittings here with metal threads right in there, so you can just tap your threaded screws right into there. And then of course here's your pass-through right here. That's for your main spar, goes right through here, and then the wings just go right on. You make your connection here, your electrical contact, and your 2 screws in, and you're good to go. And down here at the back, look at all of the cheater holes here. They got them on the side, they got them underneath, they got them on the other side, they got them on the top. That's awesome to have, because that means the engine is going to breathe well. The fan is going to be able to suck in a lot of air, because once again, we're a little obstructed there because of the landing gear, but that's okay. We got the cheater hole, so it's real nice. Down in there, we've got our ESC. I believe that was 70 amp. Our 12-bladed fan down in there. We have our hatch cover right here with 2 screws. This is where your ventral fins glue in, and you only want to glue them here, not the front, because you don't want to be able to remove the hatch. We'll talk about that during the assembly here, folks. And then your tail servos. There's your elevator servos right there, and they're ready to go. And then here's your pad right in here where your horizontal is going to fit in. And in fact, I'll go ahead and I'll pull one of these out of here. Let me grab this thing. I got to get down on the ground here, guys. I'm going all the way down to the ground for you guys. Here we go. You can see how nice that's actually going to fit right in there. It slides right in. We're going to foam tack that in place, and it's just a super nice glove tight finish. And then once you get your horizontal on, you can see right there that you just put your rod from here to here, and that's it. And you see your horizontal has really nice spars kind of built into this thing already. The spar is actually, they jig it in there, so you know it's already buried in there. You have a really nice laminated hinge down in there. It's usually shining back at us. Let's see if we can see it from this side. Not always can you see it, but anyway, it's hinged nicely, nice foam hinge, gapless. So, but anyway, you can see the contact patch area and how that thing goes on with a nice ball link. So as we get towards the back of the airplane here, we can see that really nice, yeah, we're excited, it's an in-runner in this thing. So lots of power with that 12-bladed fan and in-runner in there. 1850 kV, it's going to spin up pretty nice overall. So nice detail, nice fit and finish so far all the way around as we go through this thing. And here's where your vertical fin goes in here, and they have this really nice, this is nice. I usually tape my connections, but this one has these 2 little hooks. So we're going to be able to take our vertical stabilizer, plug that in, and these hooks are going to lock it in, so we're not going to need tape. It's really nice. That is going to glue in. Once again, folks, we're going to use foam tack to get that thing in there and secure it in place. And that's it. Really nice. Looking through the other side here, we'll go down here. Very simple setup for this thing, folks. Once again, your plastic leading edge extension, nice and tough, so we're not dinging that thing. And then taking a look inside the canopy here, let's unpop this thing. Let me see if I can zoom this such that I can see better. We have a tongue and groove with a latch type assembly. You can see how nicely that snaps back on and latches. Canopy is real nice all the way around. Your pilot is screwed in or screwed up, however you want to say it. He's in there, got some instruments. They went ahead and they painted the inside gray to give it a little bit of contrast. Very nice, and there is a little hole back there in your canopy. That is for ventilation from heat. So any heat buildup will hopefully escape, and it will tend to minimize the blistering of your paint in there. So, and then here's your setup on the inside, folks. Very, very simple how this is. You can see your cooling holes from underneath where your air can come in. They can pass over your battery and go back through here and then over the receiver and then kind of out the back. So lots of cooling there. And then they give you Velcro and straps here. This is Velcro for your battery. I will probably use my shelf liner because that is a personal preference. But they give you the Velcro here that you can peel off and stick to your battery if you want to go ahead with the Velcro. But you got your AS3X receiver in there, 6-channel. We've got our EC5 connector. Everything's plugged in and ready to go. You can see right here there is that white silicone glue that glues your receiver down in, because you don't want to move that. You want it stationary because that's what's going to detect movement of the airplane and apply control corrections to your flight controls. And we got our 2 antennas. I'll tape one down probably along the side here. We'll talk about that when we get to the assembly of the airplane. But really simple, folks. Very nice design, very nice fit and finish all the way around. The canopy goes on there super nice. This is going to be a fun one to get together and go out and fly. So let's get this thing down here. Let me get this horizontal stabilizer up here, and then let's get down to the horizontal or vertical stabilizer. Real nice all the way around. I may remove a little paint here because this whole thing is going to insert down into that slot. You just make your rudder connection right there, your rod, horn, linkage. It's all nicely installed. Paint is nice. Fit and finish is awesome all the way around. I'll probably put a little bit of white over that servo just to kind of cover that up so you don't see that. But overall, real nice. Nice quality, good fit finish again. And then let's get to one of the wings. Actually, let's get to the ventral fins. Actually, I'm going to show you real quick how this ventral fin, how one of these actually installs. And we'll talk about that a little more during the build, of course, or the assembly of this thing. But these essentially just fit right in here. We'll get those in place. It'll fit right down in there. And that's how it installs right there. It fits right on there. You just don't want to glue. We'll talk about that right there in the assembly. You don't want to glue it here. You only want to glue it here because you want to be able to remove these screws and take the hatch cover off. If you glue it here, you're going to glue the ventral fin to the plane. You're not going to be able to get the hatch cover off. So just a small detail, but we'll talk about that a little more. But the fit and finish on that is really awesome. It fits in there just super nice. Put that fuselage back down again. And then let's get one wing and one missile. And we'll see how those are going to go on. I don't know if these are side specific or not, but let's see what we got. Nice paint on the underside here. It looks like they have a hard point here, which was probably intended for some ordnance, but this is the Thunderbirds, baby, so we don't really fly around with ordnance except for the wingtip missile they put on here. So I might rectify that later. If I do a mod on that, I'll show it to you later on in a video. But you can see how this connects. You just put this on. Again, I don't know if these are side specific. They may or they may not be. I don't know. I don't see any labels on it. So you essentially just put that right on and then just sort of push it backwards and it'll lock into place, and that's it. You got your missile on. So you can remove those for transport real nice. You got foam hinges all the way around. They're kind of shiny there. They're laminated. You got your horn, rod, linkage, ball link. You got your spars running down the wing. Here, there's probably one up here I can't see. Actually, it's probably just this one right across here. The main spar fits in there. Nice plastic fittings. You got to like how nice and tough those are. Those are just going to insert right into those 2 pins there. You put your spar through the middle, make your connection. You slide your wing right onto that side. Then you put your 2 screws there through the underside, right there and right there. Those are the two slots here and here. And that's really it, folks. Really simple, nice Z-bend. I love it when they use Z-bends because the Z-bend will not slip. Generally, it's not gonna fail at all. And then that's it. You got your decal package here. Again, you choose the color you want. You've got your 4 screws for your wing right here. And you've also got your 2 push rods for your elevator with Z-bends and your bind plug. And that's That's really about it, folks. Then we have the instruction manual, last but not least. Shows you how to get everything together. I did go in here and I did highlight a few things. So this is all the quick start guide with rates and throws. It shows you all the parts that we just talked about, and shows you the motor, part numbers, servo numbers, all that. You got your part numbers, and you've got your dimensions here, and weights and everything. And then as we get into here, I did highlight your computerized transmitter setup. Notice there is no flap system on this plane, so you slow this thing down in high alpha. You get it into a high angle of attack to get it slow. So, and then they go into the assembly. Step one, just get your talks about your ventral fins. They show where the no glue area is. Then they show you get your horizontal stabilizers right on there. That's pretty simple, and we'll show you that here in the in this video. Did I skip something there? Yes, I did, like the whole assembly. Here's the vertical stabilizer and rudder going on there. Talk about getting it at 90 degrees to the fuselage. That's kind of important there. There's your nose cone going on magnetically. That's pretty simple. Your wings going on with your spar. Make your connections, and there is your 4 3x16mm Phillips head machine screws that get those wings on. You got your missiles right there that we just snapped one on. Real simple there. And then getting your canopy and battery on. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And then your binding procedure here, which we'll talk about here shortly in the video. I'll put that up in here. This is with SAFE Select on. Notice I put a little arrow here. This is SAFE Select on. This is the short version of it. This is the long version of it. This area in red here, that's binding if you're going to bind it without having a SAFE Select switch assigned, and you can do that too, but that's in this section, and we'll probably do it with the switch, just to have the switch armed. I don't need it to fly, but it's nice to have it active. Might as well use it since we got it. And then back here, SAFE Select switch designation. We'll talk about that, and that's in a lot of my other videos as well. And they do go into your horns for your factory settings and where those your push rods should be for your arms. And they do talk a little bit here about control surface centering. That's kind of important as well. You can look through that. And then center gravity, 90 to 110 millimeters. We'll check that out. I'll talk about that more as I fly the plane, because you really can't tell that until you fly it. And then your in-flight trimming, holding everything for 3 seconds. I'll probably talk about that shortly in the assembly of it. And that's really about it, folks. Just really nice model. So with that, folks, let's go ahead and get to the assembly portion, and I'll show you how easy this is to get together. When beginning the assembly of the F-16, the first part is really just to glue these ventral fins on. The stripe here, the outline goes to the outside. We literally just put some glue on this area, and the underside, and we go ahead and we just insert that in position. And that's really it. You can use Foam Safe CA. You can use foam tack. I always recommend using foam tack. I think it's like the best stuff to use. And you can do that however you want. However, couple notes, you don't have to do any of the stuff that I'm about to tell you. You can just glue these in and go. But this is a pretty fast airplane. I'm going to be yanking and banking on it so you can see the difference in what I did to mine. I went ahead and I removed the paint from the contact surface areas. And that really is pretty simple. And you can see how I removed it here. And this side I left alone. So you can see what it looks like when you don't remove it. And you can see this side when you do remove it. And the reason for that, the reason I do that, again, you don't have to do it, is just so we're gluing foam to foam, and we're not gluing paint to paint. The interesting thing is when you glue paint to paint, sometimes the paint can give way and the thing can come off. These are ventral fins, so it's not that critical of a thing. But, you know, here at RCINFORMER, that's why you watch, because I show you kind of some of these different things that you can do to make the plane a little tougher. And one interesting thing I noticed is that this paint came off really easy. So if the paint comes off really easy, then you kind of get the idea, you know, that what's going on is the paint really isn't secured that well to the foam surface. So you can see here how simple this is. You can just put a little bit of paint, a little bit of tape on here. This is just packing tape that I'm using here. I'll line this up right across the bottom of this, and as I peel it away here, it will usually just take the paint off. And you can see you can make a nice defined line, and you can go down this whole thing and get the paint off. So anywhere you have a glue surface that might be structural or pretty tough, you want to just, I usually just always remove the paint, and you can see it comes off usually pretty easy. You got to do this a couple times. It's just packing tape. It's nothing that's too tough. But if the paint is coming off easy, that probably means, okay, that it's not really that secure to the foam, and you might be gluing paint to paint, especially if it's a structural part. So again, these aren't really that critical because, and you see how much came off there? That shows you the tape isn't, or the paint really isn't secured onto the foam so well. So I'm going to clean mine up. You can even get the tape and everything right in here and get it out of this sort of concave surface. And then another tip I have as you're doing this is it's not a bad idea here that when you're gluing this on to actually, this makes it a little bit easier, I've found, is just take these two screws out of here and just completely remove the hatch cover. I'm just going to take these two machine screws off of here, and you can see how easy this hatch cover just kind of peels off. And now we can really see down in there how much paint is really in there, and you can just put the tape in here, peel it off, and so forth. And you can also get a good idea really here of how this thing glues on and why you don't want to put any glue on this surface or this surface, because we would be gluing it onto the fuselage, and we really want to be able to remove the hatch cover mostly so we can access the fan and the speed controller. Getting the paint off of inside surfaces is just as easy really as getting them off of you know, kind of exterior surfaces, only now you're going to actually use some sort of a tool really to get in there. So using a this is just a nut driver. It's a 2mm. Just using that to kind of go along here and clean this area up or get it to stick. Now we can start peeling this away, and again, you see it'll just take it right off of there. Same thing with even something that's just as sort of drastic like this inside one. Same deal. I'm going to just put my tool down in there, just push it up against that inside surface, just get it to kind of stick. And again, not necessary, folks, but again, if you really want to get that paint off, make sure this thing is really sticking on there. It'll get little off at a time. Mostly if you get this surface and this lower surface here, those are really the areas that you really want to hit. Again, just put your tool in there, just kind of wipe it down there, just get it to stick, and then as you can see here, it'll start really peeling all of that stuff off. When we glue this on, we're going to have a really nice contact area, and these ventral fins are going to be really secured well to the airplane. Now that I have all the paint removed, you can see how nice it is in there. It's not perfect, but we got most of it off, and we've got everything removed from our ventral fins as well. You can see now we're going to be gluing some foam to foam, and the paint came off really easy, folks. I mean, it just kept coming off. So I think it was a good idea to do this, and now we're going to have these things really secured in place, and we know where not to put the glue. We're not going to put it here. So just removing this hatch, cleaning these things off, and then using foam tack is going to just make it a whole lot easier to glue this thing off. It's easier to do this when it's not on the airplane. And simply all we're going to do here really, folks, is just put some foam tack on this thing. I'm going to run it all down in here. I'm going to put it on all three of these surfaces. And again, it makes it really easy because you know where the glue is going to go on this thing. So I'll go ahead and it's very important here, and I think, to use a brush. Brush is pretty much sort of the way to go with this whole thing. And I'm doing this on the camera. It's harder. It's easier when you're not filming the thing to get this all into the areas that you got to get it into. If you get some on there, just wipe it towards the hole, and it will get everything off of there. And I'll go ahead and make sure that's on both surfaces. We'll glue this one on here first. Take a little bit of foam tack. Again, this is really pretty darn easy right now because I know exactly where I'm going to put that glue. Oh, I got a little piece of paint there. Let me pull that off of there because I don't want that on there. And we'll get this in place. We'll put some underneath here. And always use a brush if you can, if you're in a position to use it, because it really, foam tack and foam and contact cement generally is kind of a thick glue. And you don't really want a lot of thick glue on a tight-fitting part like this because it may make them not fit quite right. So you just want to have enough on there so it's all gonna go in position. So let me just kind of brush this on. You can see how easy it is to get on there, and we're gonna let it kind of dry up and get tacky. If you mess up again and get it where you don't want it, just push it towards the glue joint, and that will take all of that off. So get a little bit more on here. and that's it. So we're going to go ahead and now that we've got the glue in position everywhere where we want it, we're actually just going to let it kind of tack up a little bit. A lot of times it's a good idea, and the way foam tack works is you actually put the part in place, and I'm going to go ahead and stick it in there just the way it is, and then you kind of peel it apart again and let it form these little strings here. And what it does is it sort of thins the glue out and sort of sets it up to tack. And then you just want to let it kind of sit there and tack up for just a short period of time, maybe a minute or two. Now that the parts have set up for a minute or two, it's time to make the final assembly. It's all tacked up and nice and sticky, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to just push everything right into place. And now it's not going to come off. Now that we have it on there, it's secure, it's tacky, and then we're just going to let it dry in place. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to duplicate the same thing for the other ventral fin. Now once the ventral fins are fully assembled or glued in place, we can then go ahead and put the hatch cover back in place, and we can actually glue it in position. Now a couple things to note about this. It's not a bad idea when you're putting the elevators on or messing around with the rest of the airplane and assembling the rest of it, is just to actually take the ventral fins off. Just leave them off and then go ahead and get the rest of the airplane together, and then when you're done, put them back on. I have found that low-hanging ventral fins that hang off the bottom of an F-16 are often snagging on a lot of things, and it's almost impossible to lay an F-16 down on its belly because you've got these big ventral fins hanging down, so you have to transport the plane in some kind of a cradle or something. But, which leads me to something else. You can actually remove this hatch cover if you need to transport the airplane flat on its belly, because these ventral fins are the only thing that are sticking out of the bottom of this thing. So when I transport my F-16s, especially when I have a lot of them a lot of different airplanes to transport, and I can't rely on a cradle to hold the airplane up from falling over, I'll just take my belly pan, just like this, my hatch cover off with my ventral fins, and I'll transport the airplane on the belly this way, and that way I don't have to worry about tearing them off. When I get to where I'm going, then I'll go ahead and I'll put the hatch cover back into place, just put the 2 screws in, and we're good to go and we're ready to fly. The next part of assembly is just getting your horizontal stabilizer on. All that requires is just kind of gluing it on. This thing fits like a glove. It really is a nice, precise fit. You can use your foam tack, or you can use your foam safe medium CA. Either way, it'll work out fine. I'm going to show you how I'm going to use my foam tack on there. It's pretty straightforward. One area to note, I did outline this little triangular sort of area, trapezoidal, whatever you want to call it, area where no glue goes. You can see right here. I'll zoom in here for y'all so you can kind of see what that area looks like. This is where the slot where the wire for your elevator servo kind of runs through. And if you ever need to pull it out of there, you don't want it to be super, ultra glued in place. You want to be able to pull that out if you can. And those surfaces right there from here to here don't even contact anyway. So we're just going to go ahead and apply some glue and just get this thing in position. I went ahead and I just kind of labeled the areas, or just kind of marked the areas lightly. I also stopped right here because no glue goes past that line. All the places where the glue is going to go. So using some foam tack, all I'm going to do is pretty much like we did before. We're just going to take the glue. We're going to go ahead and apply it on here. A good amount of it, but not too much, because this is a pretty tight fitting part all the way around, and we don't really want to have a whole bunch of globs of glue, because then it won't fit. You want it actually to be fairly a thin fit. And you don't want to have just a ton of it in there, because putting too much glue in there is going to fill the gap too much, and the part may not fit quite right. It might kind of stick out a little bit. So we go ahead and we apply our glue on there. We'll apply it onto both surfaces at the same time, and then using a brush, because you always want to use a brush to sort of thin this out a bit and get it kind of evenly spread, so all the surface area is really covered with this thing. And we can do that best if we're using a brush. So brush it on both surfaces, and then we'll get everything in position. Now that we have our foam tack brushed onto both surfaces, and we're going to go ahead and just install the 2 of them. We're going to put them in place, kind of just push them both all into position. You can kind of feel the glue. Some of it might squeeze out a little bit if you have to. Just kind of use your finger and kind of clean it up a little bit. And then with foam tack, you know, just to kind of get the strings going in it, you're going to kind of pull it apart. You can see all those strings forming right there. And what that's going to do is that's going to sort of thin out the glue and let it tack up for just about a minute or two before you do the final installation. Now that I've let the glue tack up, you see those little strings? What I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll kind of push some of those down in there and make sure they do go in there. The glue's nice and tacky now, and I'll make my final installation. I'll go ahead and push everything into place, and then once you kind of get it down in there, it's there to stay, folks. It's again, it is contact cement, and that is the purpose of contact cement, is to let it get tacky and then put it on. And when you make that final contact, like you see right there, it's on to stay. Again, any excess glue that you have, you can use your finger and just kind of run it across there, and what it'll do is it'll ball up, as you can see there, and then once it balls up, it'll literally just come off. You want to get to it kind of soon. You don't want it to sit there and collect. But even if it does towards the end, if you have a ball of glue that sticks out, because this glue does expand a bit as it cures. So, and little bits of it, again, you can just kind of scrape off. If you get a ball of it sticking out towards the end, again, you can see I'm just wiping it away and it comes off, and now we have a really clean installation. All you have to do is repeat this for the other side. Now that both horizontal stabilizers are in place, all we have to do is just put the two linkages on and just install those for now. It's easy enough to pop on, but getting off is kind of tough, so you'll want to get a set of balling pliers if you don't have them. I always use those to remove stuff. It just makes life a lot easier to get things off of there rather than kind of messing up your linkage with a pair of you know, a screwdriver or something. But we'll adjust these later on. We do want to make sure that our horns are 90 degrees to our rod, and that our flight control surface is neutralized, and that both surfaces are the same. We'll do that later once we power up the radio and get the airplane set up for flying. With the airplane flipped upright, it's now time to put the vertical stabilizer on. I gotta tell you, hats off to Horizon Hobby for putting these new style connectors on here. Normally when I make a connection, I'll actually tape the thing, but because they've put this little hook type mechanism on here on one end, it's really nice because you can now pop that into place. You can secure your connection, and now it's secured with little hooks there, so very sharp, very nice. No tape is needed, and we can now put this thing in place. So all you really have to do is just apply your glue, really like we did before, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to tuck that down in there. Put our glue on just like we did. You can use Foam Safe CA once again, or use you know, foam tack, which is I'm going to use foam tack, and then secure it in position. Now, another thing to note, once again, folks, with the paint, just like before, I used my tape. You don't have to do this, but using the packing tape and getting some of this paint off, and again, the paint came off really easily, which means it's not adhering to the foam probably as well as it could be. So taking it off really will give us a very good foam to foam contact. So once again, all I'm going to do here is just once I remove the paint off of this side as well, you can see it's only about maybe 3/8 of an inch deep in here. We'll go ahead and brush some contact cement on here just like we did before. Install it once, pull it off, then put it back on, and as you can see here, this thing will be secured in position. Now you do want to view it from the rear of the airplane, because one of the things they do discuss in the manual, it is kind of important, is to get your vertical surface 90 degrees, okay, to the wing. So once you get that glued in, you want to sight this from behind and just make sure that it is perpendicular to the wing. The last major step of assembly is just getting the wings on your F-16. All you have to do is just take your wing spar and just slide it in, insert both of your wings, make your connection right here, and then just install these two screws right here. They're machine screws that go into metal, and here's what they look like. They're 3mm metric by 16 in length, and they're 2mm socket head screws. So all we have to do really is just take our wing, just slide it onto the spar here, and then we're going to go ahead and just make our connection here. And I got to hand it to Horizon Hobby. I got to tell you, I am pumped about these new connectors that they're using. They have these nice little hooks. In fact, I'm going to zoom in on that, show you guys that a little closer, just like we did with the rudder. These are sweet, and you can see when you push this thing in, it's actually going to snap. There we go. It snaps into place, and these two little hooks hold this thing in place. And I am impressed because I usually am always taping these kind of connectors so they stay on in the event that I end up pulling this lead through. You know, if I'm pulling on them from the receiver end, that I don't pull them apart. So, but since they added these hooks, holy smokes, folks, that's going to be really nice. Makes life a whole lot easier not having to throw some tape on anything. All you have to do is just really match up your fairing really right here. Just make sure that doesn't tear up your foam there. I'm going to very carefully slide that in, and then this thing really fits like a glove. Make sure our sticker, our aileron stickers all the way in there, our label, and then that baby goes right on. You can see you put your screws in here, and then we will secure everything in place. Again, our 2mm driver here, just put those in there. And that's pretty much it. You can feel that thing kind of funneling in and kind of biting on the metal. And again, they are metal-to-metal threads, so really, really nicely engineered. And that's pretty much it, folks. That sums it up for the major construction of this airplane. Last but not least is just putting your nose cone and your missiles on. Your nose cone simply just fits right on the front. It's magnetic and it'll stay on there. Your missiles literally just go right on the wingtips, and then you push them backwards. And just to give you guys a close-up of that, I'm going to show it to you here right on the camera. You can see how those fit in. It's just a sort of a notch mechanism. You just go ahead and you put that in, you slide it back, and that's it. Your missile is in place, and we are ready to bind and fly. Now, binding your airplane's receiver to your transmitter is really just this simple. All you need to do is go into the model memory menu, create a new model memory. I labeled mine E-flite F-16 bind and fly 70mm, and I did that on my DX9, which is pretty much one of the nicest radios around. I use it for most of my stuff, as you guys have seen in some of my videos. In the description below the video, I'll put a link for this so you can check it out at Horizon Hobby, and then also on the RCINFORMER YouTube channel, I have a full review of this. It's really nice. And in the upper right corner of the video, if you click on that white circular eye right now even, you'll get a drop-down menu here, and I'll put that video in there that you guys can link to and check it out, because it was a pretty nice review that I did. And then we'll go into the computerized transmitter setup menu within the radio and set everything up just the way it says. It's pretty simple. We'll set our rates high at 100, low at 70. Servo travel at 100%, you want to leave it there for now, and then set your throttle cut to -130, and I reverse the gear channel. We'll see if it works that way after I set this whole thing up. And then in the left column here, select your radio. I have a DX7 Gen 2 and a DX9. Of course, I'm using the 9, and the instructions are the same. You just go to the system setup menu, and then number 2, just select model airplane type, because this airplane doesn't have any flaps. It flies like a delta wing, so it's a very easy setup process. And then you just decide which way to bind it. There's 2 ways to bind it, one with SAFE Select on and one with SAFE Select off. So you can do it either way. It's a little confusing in the menu because this is the short version of binding it with SAFE on, and the full expanded version is here. Selecting SAFE Select off is here, and the expanded version is here. So these are your 2 sort of short versions of each. These are your long versions of each. So we're going to do it this way. We're going to install the bind plug. We're going to put the receiver in the bind mode by plugging it in. Then we're going to remove the bind plug and then bind to our transmitter. And then we're going to have our stabilization and safe mode on. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll turn my transmitter off and we'll do the most challenging part of the bind procedure, and that is getting the plug in, because it's all the way kind of back in here, so you have to sort of angle it here. There is a bind plug included with the airplane in that parts bag that we saw, and I'm using one of my own because I wanted this extra wire on the back of it, because I have that attached to my radio. But once that's in, we're ready to start the bind process, which is just like the instructions said that we just read. We're going to go ahead and plug this in. We'll get a flashing light right there. I'm going to go ahead and unplug it, and you have to be careful when you do this not to pull your throttle channel out because it's right next to it. We still have that flashing light, and now we're going to bind. I'm going to press my bind button, turn my radio on, and move it away from the receiver, and just listen.
Binding. DSMX 22 milliseconds. Telemetry. Bind complete.
Bind's complete. Our light will go steady. And there it is. Our flight controls are running through 2 checks, and now our bind in safe mode is complete. The next thing I'm going to do is assign my SAFE Select switch, which one of the caveats to that is really just to make sure your rates are at 100%. And then all you have to do is move your sticks to the lower inside corners, and then the switch that you want to use for safe mode, you just cycle it up and down 5 times. So it's just really this simple. We'll just take our radio, put our sticks to our innermost positions, and then once we assign the switch, we'll see our flight controls move just a bit. And here we go. Let's cycle the switch 5 times. You see that flicker of the flight controls? That basically means that we've now assigned this switch to safe mode. So now when we have it in the up position, it's in safe mode, so at wing levels, at pitch levels, it will level everything and keep us in that safe mode. And then in the lower or middle or lower positions, the safe mode is off. But we still have AS3X stabilization working for us. Now, one of the last steps in setting your up your airplane is making sure your flight control surfaces are neutralized. Just like with every other airplane, as we get ready to go, we're going to go ahead and we're going to adjust our ball link for our aileron to make sure that our aileron is nice and straight, nice and level. Same thing with the other aileron. We want to make sure that's level, and we may need to adjust the ball link. Mine isn't quite set yet, but I'm going to neutralize them, and you have to do it with the radio on. Again, making sure everything's neutralized. And then with your elevators as well, you do want to make sure that they are equal as well. This one's lined up and this one's lined up, and that they're both at exactly neutral to each other. One's not higher, one's not lower. If one's higher or lower than the other, it actually will cause a roll. And even when you pitch up or pitch down, it tends to cause a little bit of a roll. So we want to neutralize all those by adjusting our ball link in or out accordingly. And we do that with, again, the radio on and the trims at neutral. Now, a few last thoughts on the instruction manual and the control surfaces that we just talked about. This is your control horn and arm settings. This is pretty much how you set up every airplane, and it's real important, especially with this one, to make sure that your servo output arm right here is 90 degrees perpendicular to your push rod. Your push rod is also 90 degrees or perpendicular to your control surface horn, and that's with your control surface, either your elevator, your aileron, or your rudder is perfectly level with your horizontal stabilizer, your wing, or your vertical stabilizer. So once those are all level, you have everything at 90 degrees. That'll ensure that you have equal travel in both directions. And this is how you adjust it, like we just talked about with your ball link, turning it in or out and adjusting those things so they're nice and straight with everything 90 degrees to each other. And a couple things we'll talk about during the flight. We'll save that for later, so stay tuned for those flight demos in the upper right hand corner here. That's your CG, 90 degrees from your leading edge where your wing meets your fuselage. That's more for normal flying, and as you shift it backwards, that's more for high alpha flying, which this airplane's really good at. AS3X flight direction control test, and of course the trimming down here. We'll talk about all these during the flight, but the trimming right here, I found it with these AS3X systems that once you trim the airplane, it's in level flight, it's flying nice and straight. You want to let go of the controls and let it stay trimmed without moving your controls for about 3 seconds. What that does is it neutralizes your center point of your servo and makes sure that you have no deadband at the end of your movement. So once again, we'll talk about all these when we get on to the flight demo, and stay tuned for that. All right, guys, now we pretty much got the airplane fully assembled and ready to go as the manual states. And now I'm going to take you guys outside the box just a little bit, or maybe inside the box. I did notice as getting this together that we actually had a free channel. Number 6 had no plug in it whatsoever, because really this is only a 5-channel airplane. We've got aileron, elevator, rudder, throttle, and retractable gear, and no flap. So with that open channel, it gives you an opportunity to use it for something, and I decided to give myself some nose wheel steering on this airplane. So what I did is I removed the Y harness here. This is the rudder Y harness that actually plugged into channel 4 originally. And what I did is I pulled this out of channel 4, separated your rudder and your nose wheel steering, because your rudder right there, and your nose wheel steering were on that Y harness. So by taking that Y harness out, which I can remove and get some jumble of wires out of this this rat's nest back here, I went ahead and took my my rudder, plugged it directly into channel 4 for the rudder, and from underneath here into channel 6, you can see here I plugged my nose wheel steering servo directly into channel 6. Now that we've separated our rudder servo from our nose wheel steering servo, we now need to assign our nose wheel servo to something. And what we're going to do is we're going to assign it to the knob here, because we want to be able to trim it with the knob. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to go into the System Setup menu. We're going to disable the RF by pressing yes there. Then we're going to go into Channel Assign. Okay, we're going to skip past this page. We're going to go to Next right here. Press that, go to the second page, and now I can go into my auxiliary 6 where we plugged in our nose wheel steering servo, which it thinks we want to use switch D because normally switch D is where our flaps are. So we're going to go ahead and press that. I'm going to cycle through it with my scroll wheel here and get to where it says R knob. Let's see if I pass by that. I think I went past it here. There's the R knob. I'm going to select that and then back out of it. Now by going into R knob, all we did is we assigned our nose wheel steering to this knob here. So now we have to make sure that it's going in the right direction. So I'm going to go ahead and back on out of here, and I'm going to plug in my airplane, and let's see if everything is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and then we can pretty much mix everything together. I'm going to let everything go through its control cycle here. It's going through its AS3X control boot up, and then there we go. So now we just want to check everything out, make sure we have rudder control in the correct direction, which it is. Notice my nose wheel steering down here, it ain't moving, but it is moving on the knob. But is it moving in the correct direction? When I turn it to the right, it's going left. When I turn it to the left, it's going right. So we need to reverse that. So simply, all we're going to do is go into the servo setup menu. We're going to go into reverse, which is right here, and then we're going to go all the way down to auxiliary 1, which is where I plugged in that nose wheel steering servo, and that's normally for the flaps, but now I'm just going to reverse it. Okay, we'll back out of that menu, we'll go back to the main screen here, and now when we move our knob, we can turn it to the right, it goes to the right. I turn it to the left, it goes to the left. Now we just need to connect these two electronically. They had the Y harness on there before, but now we're going to electronically mix them. So all we have to do now, we're going to go into our mixing menu. I'm going to create a new mix, number 1 here, and then I'm going to select a normal mix. I really don't need it to curve. And then this is our master, and this is our slave. So I'm going to take my master, and I'm going to make the master servo is going to be the rudder, and then the slave to it is going to be channel, if you guys can guess, auxiliary 1, which is where our nose wheel steering is plugged into. So then all we have to do is adjust the high and the low rate. So what we can do is we can activate one of those. Basically one of these is to the left, the other is to the right, and now we need to see just which way that this thing is going to go. So by moving our stick to the left, I'm going to go ahead and punch in here. I'm going to start winding this backwards and see if that nose wheel is turning to the left. And if we can see which way it's going here, it looks like it's going to the left, so I'm going to continue. I'm going to go all the way really to its full travel, and I'm going to release it. Now when I move my stick to the left, you notice I get left steering and left rudder. Now notice to the right I still got nothing. So what I have to do is when I go to the right, I'm going to go ahead and press the button here. When I go to the right, notice that the box will actually move, or actually I need to move it. I'm going to go over to this box, and now I'm into the right area. So I'm going to press on that again, and we have to go minus as well. So now as I'm going to the right and I'm moving this knob, notice my nose wheel steering, my nose wheel is turning to my right as well. So notice I'm using minus 125 in both of these. Now that's all we really need to do. Now we're all set up, and we're ready to go with some nice nose wheel steering. Notice now, when I move my rudder to the left, I get rudder and nose wheel steering. When I move it to the right, I get rudder and nose wheel steering to the right. Everything's working great. Now, if we're zooming down the runway or we're rolling down the runway, the airplane's pulling to the right or it's pulling to the left, which the AS3X does help with that. Now I can adjust my nose wheel steering trim with the R knob. Now this is pretty simple to do with any airplane that you have an open channel with, and anything that you have, in fact it'll apply to almost any airplane that you guys have, as long as you have two servos, one for your rudder and one for your nose wheel steering, or for a tail wheel as well, but you just have to have two servos. So they're on a Y harness. You separate them, plug them into separate channels. You go ahead and make sure it's moving the right way. You assign it to the knob, then make sure it's going the right way, and then all you have to do is just mix the two together with a master and a slave. And we're good to go. So that's really it, folks. Getting this thing set up is pretty darn easy, and once again, you can apply this nose wheel steering trick to any model that you have. The last part I want to talk about is the battery floor in this airplane and the battery tray. The stock tray is awesome. You can just leave it as is and fly it as is, and you won't have any problems. You should be able to run 3200s and 4000s out of this, and they should do quite well in there. However, I usually do a lot of negative maneuvers with my airplanes. I do inverted turns, inverted pushovers, and all that kind of stuff. And I am going to show you guys just in this video a mod you can do. You don't have to do it, but this is just something I decided to do to mine. Mostly because of the two packs I'm probably going to fly in this thing, this 3200 Smart Pack and the 4000 Smart Pack here. And you can see their weights right here, 484 for the smaller one and 565 for the 4000. The reason I'm doing this is because this plane flies in a wide CG range. In other words, the 3200 will probably be perfect under the two straps here. I'm going to put them kind of right here. But the 4000 probably needs to go under there or even a little bit farther back, and I've been told that this 4000 flies this airplane really well towards the back. And depending on the kind of flying you're doing, and what I mean by that is, are you going to be flying straight and level, or are you going to be doing a lot of high alpha maneuvering where you want the CG farther back? So because it has a wide CG range, you may want to use a different type of battery in a different position, and specifically flying a 4000 or higher, you're going to want this more towards the back for CG purposes and for doing that high alpha flight. And I noticed that by pushing this as far back as I can get it without moving the receiver anyway, notice there's just one strap kind of around it here, and there's kind of nothing right here. So I decided I wanted to add another strap here. I started the mod already and then I stopped because I wanted to show you this thing pretty much stock, what it looks like. And you can see this notch and this notch here that I just started to put in here. And what I did was, and what you can see here is if you're a Velcro user, they do give you the Velcro that you can put on the bottom of your battery. And you can just Velcro this in and go, and that's really all you need to do, folks. But if you guys have seen some of my prior videos, you know I like to use shelf liner in the bottom of this. I try to keep Velcro off my batteries because every plane seems to need Velcro somewhere else, and it just gets Velcro all over the batteries. And the two layers of Velcro make a lot of space, or take up too much space, I think, and it raises the level of the battery a little bit. Sometimes canopies don't fit, so I just leave them like this, and I use my shelf liner on this thing. So what I did to start off the upgrade here is I just decided I was going to put another battery strap back here. And what I did is I took right here tools like this. I took some Allen wrenches and kind of stuck them underneath here. I removed the straps and I kind of went around the edge. Well, let's see if I can get this in here. I kind of went around the edge, sticking this under here just to remove some of the glue, and I was able to actually pry the battery floor up, and you can see what it looks like when I got it off of there. It took a little bit more prying than that. They had plenty of glue and they had glued it on really well, but it actually came up, as you can see, fairly easily. You can see the bottom of this somewhat nicely. And then what I did is I started to notch it out a little bit here so I can put another strap in there and then re-glue this down. I also had to using a hobby knife, you can see right here, and using a Dremel tool and some sanding blocks. I just kind of sand out a trench, just like these are for the other battery straps. And essentially this is going to go right back down into place, and now it's going to have three straps. So when I put my battery towards the back, I'll have two nice straps in there, and we'll have a shelf liner floor down here that'll be nice and grippy, and it'll hold it in place well. After peeling the Velcro off of the wood, you can see I did make 3 additional mods right here. I just drilled some holes through here with a drill press. I did use a piece of wood backer as I drilled through this, so it didn't kind of tear up the wood underneath. The holes are not really there for lightening this thing. The holes are there for if you need to feed your battery strap down under here, you have something in the middle that you can kind of push it through and to the other side. I've broken straps before, and sometimes it's a pain to get through to feed a Velcro strap through this much wood unless you have a hole or something in the middle to kind of grab it and then sort of just push it through. I also just kind of made these holes, these straps, just a little bit deeper in there because I don't have a battery that's going to be quite that wide, even though this one's a little wider than these. Now we can go ahead, and the best thing to use is just use foam tack, and I'm going to take this thing and we are going to foam tack it down in place. With the battery floor foam tacked down in position, we're now ready to put our shelf liner down there. I just cut a piece of shelf liner and I lined the bottom with double-sided Scotch tape. And that'll keep this thing down there so it doesn't move anywhere. And we're simply just going to apply this thing to the bottom of the floor. So on the camera here, it's always tougher than doing this normally, but I'm going to try and do it here for you guys real time and get this thing down into position and get it pushed down there. Now once we get this thing firmly down in position, we are ready to cut the holes. Cutting the holes is really quite simple. You can see I went ahead and cut one already. This is the reason why I don't have the straps in here right now, because you can kind of cut through those and wires and other stuff that's down below. But essentially just using your hobby knife here, you're going to go ahead and use the wood circle as a guide for the blade. You want to use a fairly sharp knife to do this with. I went ahead and pulled out a new number 11 hobby knife to do this with. But you simply just cut around the corner here, or cut around the edge of your circle, and that'll cut out a really nice form-fitted hole. And as you get that out, you can see what that thing looks like. It's really just a little plug out of there, and it really makes the whole thing look really nice and neat and clean. So go ahead and cut out the last one here. You can see how easy this is. It just goes right around there nicely. If you have a dull blade, it makes this a little tougher. So again, using a new knife blade is probably the best way to go to do this. And again, you see how that comes out neat and cleanly. Just don't cut too deep so you don't cut anything underneath. And you can see we have a nice new battery floor lined with shelf liner that'll grip our battery. Putting our straps back in is really pretty simple. You can see I put two of these in here already, and really all you have to do is you take the edge of your strap here and just kind of curl it a little bit. You want to roll it up and get it into a little bit of a curve to it. If you can actually roll it, that works really well too. But whatever you can do to get this thing so it has a little bit of a curve to it will really help out. And all we're going to do is put this down into this slot, and you can apply this to any airplane you have. You put it right down in there, and grabbing a pick type tool like you saw from before, even a dull hobby knife will work just fine. And this will show you the reason for the holes. This makes it really easy to reinstall a strap if you ever break one, and that's why I always, if I ever get a chance to do a battery floor, I'll literally put these holes in here. And that's the purpose of these, again, not so much for lightening the airplane up, but really just so you can get your straps in and out a lot easier. And that's it, folks, for getting your straps in there. And now we have a la FMS we have 3 straps, and now we have a really good range and a lot of flexibility now to adjust our battery forward and back. Once again, guys, this isn't something that you have to do. The stock floor is really good just as is with Velcro. Most guys will want to keep it simple like that. But since I'm going to explore the range of this thing, and I like to do negative G's with the airplane, I set mine up this way, and hopefully this will help you guys out in the future with some of your battery floors. Okay guys, that pretty much concludes this unbox, assembly, and setup of E-flite 70mm F-16. As you can see, it went together really nicely. Very simple. There is some gluing, but man, what a nice fitting kit. Now, one kind of addendum I want to add to putting the vertical stabilizer in position. I found that when I put it in, it's so tight in its place, and since I use foam tack to put it in, if you have glue that's really tacky when you're putting such a tight fitting part in, it can kind of get stuck halfway down in there. You may not get it in there all the way. So I glued it a little bit differently. I still use foam tack, but I put it along the bottom, and I put it on the bottom of the surface of the vertical stabilizer. I also put it down into the trench and along the sides, and I only let it tack up for like 30 seconds or so. I used a brush and brushed it all on, and then I went ahead and put it down in position one time and let it stay there, and it dried perfectly tough. You can see how nice this thing is. I was afraid that putting it in, taking it out, putting it in, taking it out a few times like you normally do with foam tack with parts that just kind of stick together, because it's so tight, slime that in there, it might get stuck, but I found putting it in once was beautiful, and this thing is really nice in position. So pretty awesome overall airplane. I do have it plugged in. I'm going to show you guys just a couple things here real quick. I'll go to the landing gear, and you can see how nice these retracts are. You can see I did use, and here's another tip, use your foam tack, of course, on your E-rings. There's one here, one here, one here, and there's one on the opposite side of the wheel here. In fact, I'll flip it around real quick. You can see right here, you do want to make sure you get that on these E-rings, because if you lose these E-rings, you could lose those parts, and you definitely don't want to do that. But the suspension on this thing is super nice. You can see how nice the compression is. This thing has that classic forward F-16 rake that is really nice. Main gear has really nice compression for absorbing the shock of landing, and here we'll cycle it for you right out of the box. It just works beautifully. It's just such a nice, nice tough set of landing gear that'll take the abuse of grass and pavement as well. So we'll get this thing right back down on the table, but really nice model overall. Once again, folks, check for the videos. We're going to have the flight demos on pavement and grass on the RC Informer YouTube channel, and in the upper right hand corner of this video on that information card. You can click it, pull it right down. Please guys, like and subscribe, comment, click that notification bell below, and once again, below in the description of the video here, below in the description below the video, if you guys do want to get one of these and you get one through our links, put one in your cart and purchase it. That supports our channel, guys, and we really do appreciate the support. Anyway, folks, we do appreciate you watching. Please check back here for more videos. Also, follow us on Instagram. I keep forgetting that. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We just started those accounts. I'm going to put those links below so we can chat back and forth that way. You guys can get a hold of me. Anyway, folks, once again, thanks for watching RC Informer. And as always, folks, we'll see you next time.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, going up. It's got lots of power. Wow, it's up there. I'm still pointed up. Power off. Let's let it tail slide a little bit. Roll it. Nice.